How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. So today we're looking at 3 questions, pressing questions the Yankees have to answer this upcoming offseason. It's going to revolve around a player on this team that is kind of polarizing. Some people think that they should trade him. Some people think they should extend him. I'm currently on the side of extending him. We'll get into that. And then, of course, how the Yankees should spend their money this offseason. We've talked about Yoshinobu Yamamoto. We've talked about how he would bring another ace-level arm to this rotation. And he's durable, knock on wood. He has pitched over 150 innings for 3 straight years, including the last 2 years, the 190-plus innings. So he's capable of really lasting. And I definitely think that right now the Yankees have an opportunity to kind of sidestep what would be a really catastrophic rebuild. Obviously, the Jason Dominguez news, which we just learned like a couple minutes ago, that ultimately he's going to need surgery. And, well, we knew he needs surgery, but he's actually going to undergo surgery in the next couple of days, I believe, next week. So, that's starting to get underway. He's going to be out for a minimum of 9 to 10 months. That's really unfortunate, but you're really excited about Jason. But we still are. He'll come back eventually, but definitely an injury we did not anticipate going down the stretch here. But Ryan, before we dive into things, how you doing tonight, my friend? And we're going to dive into Gleyber Torres and his extension kind of situation and what we think the future will hold for him as a player.
Yeah, so Gleyber, I know that I can't just sit here and say Gleyber's been the second best hitter on the Yankees over the last 2 years because people are going to counteract that with saying, well, how many good hitters have the Yankees had that have performed well over the last 2 years? Well, it's not just that he's performed well over the last 2 years. It's that, he's a really good hitter for his position as well. Second base offense isn't as prevalent as people may perceive, or maybe you already know that second base offense isn't a thing that necessarily exists. If you look at league stats for second base, the league average WRC plus at the position is 97, right? So you're not typically getting a lot of offense from there. The Yankees have a unique situation where they are getting a lot of offense from their second base position. If you look at team stats for WRC plus, the Yankees have a team WRC plus of 121 at second base, largely because Gleyber's played the majority of the reps there. The Yankees are 4th in WRC plus among second basemen. On his own, really, Gleyber Torres has hit all 25 home runs, I believe, out of the second base position. Maybe DJ has one there. I think DJ's hit most of his at third. They're 12th, right? Just based on Gleyber Torres playing the position. So, I think that Gleyber Torres gives the Yankees stability at a position where they need offense. They don't have a lot of offense. And going into next year, there shouldn't be a lot of veterans that are guaranteed starting jobs. Not saying that there aren't going to be veterans who retain their jobs or retain their roles, but I think you have to earn it, right? And I think Gleyber Torres has earned it. And this is the type of offseason where you sit back and you have your players meeting, you have your executive meetings, whatever it may be. You reevaluate the lineup, you reevaluate your position groups, and you say a lot of things in the offense aren't good enough right now. Gleyber Torres isn't one of those things that aren't good enough, right? Or isn't one of those players, excuse me, I'm not going to use the word things. But, do the Yankees have to extend him this offseason? Not necessarily. Could they do it next offseason? Well, he'd be a free agent at that point, but could they retain him next year? Sure, right? Like, as long as the Yankees, give Gleyber Torres a fair shot to make his money, that's all that matters to me. In Gleyber's case, if you hit free agency, you're going to hit free agency entering your age 28 season, in year 1 of that new contract. So it might be beneficial for him to just wait through arbitration because he'll get, like, $13 million or $14 million in arbitration, and then you get that new contract to kick in after you finish your last year of arbitration, so you'll end up with probably more money. And overall, for Gleyber Torres, he has the leverage here. The Yankees need offense, right? They're not in a position where they're like, Gleyber's expendable, we'll trade him. They trade him, they're trading their second best hitter, right? Are you going to be trading the second best hitter on your team to try to improve your offense? That feels like it's counterproductive. Oswald Peraza hasn't done enough to play second. Oswaldo Cabrera hasn't done enough to play second. Anthony Volpe is your shortstop. DJ LeMahieu, I'm sorry, he hasn't done enough to earn playing every single day either. I know he's had a good second half, but that WRC plus says 98, so that's what I see, right? Like, I see the total picture is a 98 WRC plus. That's not good enough for me. So ultimately, I think the Yankees, not that they have to give Gleyber some like insane contract, but I think the Yankees at least have to keep Gleyber on the team for next year, and then you can look into signing him for agency, or you can extend him now. I don't really care, but yeah, you're gonna have to keep him on the team next year, 100%.
Yeah, so the argument against Gleyber Torres, let's play devil's advocate, is that he's a bad defender, but I would argue that he was a good defender last year, 9 defensive runs saved. This year he's at -5 defensive runs saved. So, you're seeing a player that is capable of being a very solid player all around. If you compare the good defensive seasons with the good offensive seasons, you're looking at a well above average player, a guy that has a 121 WRC plus right now, a guy that would have, multiple positive defensive runs saved and outs above average, and that would make him indispensable. Right now, he is the Yankees' most consistent hitter, aside from Aaron Judge, who obviously picked up injuries this season and has been in and out. Gleyber Torres has played 142 games. He's been their only guy, really, that's been there day in and day out, playing at a pretty high level. And how do you, if you're a Yankee fan, like logically, guys, like if you're a Yankee fan sitting there right now and all you're doing is commenting on this podcast, the Yankees need to go and find at bats. We need to add Cody Bellinger. We need to add this guy, add that guy. I don't care about defense. We want offense. We need more runs scored. How are you logically sitting there and saying that Gleyber Torres needs to be traded? Like, it's hypocritical. You can't do that. You can't say we need bats and don't care about defense, but at the same time want to get rid of Gleyber Torres because of his defense. It doesn't work that way. He's a fine defender. He can get the job done. There have been occasions this year where I've been like, okay, like that was not good. More so base running decisions than defense at times, but Gleyber Torres overall is a net positive to this team, and I think that most people would agree with that. Now, the question is, do you extend him now or do you extend him later? That's really where we've been kind of wondering how the the Yankees go about this. I think, in my perspective, if you let him get to free agency, he's going to remember everything the Yankees did to him. And I know you guys remember last year, this year, the trade talks. He was very much involved in those discussions. They were going to trade him at some points, and they didn't. Gleyber Torres remembers that. He's going to want to get every last dollar out of the Yankees, if not another team. He's probably going to say to himself, they didn't want me at certain points. They didn't think I was valuable enough. Maybe I'm just going to go test my worth on the market and sign with another team if they come calling. And another team will come calling for Gleyber Torres. You're going to see him. Think about how much the Miami Marlins have wanted him over the years. They really want Gleyber Torres. If he hits the open market, the Yankees are going to be bidding a pretty significant amount just to retain him. So if I'm the Yankees right now, I'm thinking to myself, we either have to make a decision on his long-term future with us, or we have to risk him leaving on his own. So, Ryan, what are your thoughts on that? The idea that, Gleyber Torres could remember everything that the Yankees kind of did and be like, you know what, I'm going to go test my luck on the market, see if I can get more money, or at least drive the price up for the Yankees. I think if the Yankees are smart, they'll probably lock this deal in now rather than later because, waiting that extra season could be detrimental to their checkbook, but also it could put them in a position where he could walk. And I think that taking that risk and not having a backup in mind, like who's going to supplement that? Oswald Peraza? We don't even know what Oswald Peraza is. So right now I'm kind of like, you really don't want to go down that alley of losing your best offensive player aside from Judge and really risking it.
Yeah, I mean, there is that aspect of like the Yankees kind of haven't given Gleyber the type of treatment you would expect you'd give a homegrown player who's a career like 117 WRC plus hitter. I understand he had those two down years in 2020 and 2021. Don't get me wrong. But the Yankees tried to play him at shortstop and it didn't work. Like, that's on the Yankees, right? Like, I don't want to make it seem like Gleyber Torres should get an excuse for not playing well. He didn't play well, and he'll tell you that's on him. But he lost weight so he could play shortstop, right? And he stopped hitting for power, right? Like, I'm not saying that the Yankees are to blame, but can they really, like, is that really the player that he is now? Like, I think that's an unfair thing to say. That's like saying, the player Aaron Judge was in 2016 should factor into the player you thought he was in 2018. Like, no, it absolutely shouldn't, right? Like, that isn't the same player. Players get better. Players develop. Players change. And that is like, age 23 and age 24 Gleyber? Like, Aaron Judge came up when he was 24, right? Like, Aaron Judge was a rookie at 25, right? There are a lot of 25-year-old rookies out there. We're going to be talking about like Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He's 25, right? Like, that's an age of growth. That is an age of development. That is not an age of figure it out or you suck, right? And I do get it. I do agree that, like, there is that aspect of, is Gleyber Torres going to take a hometown discount after 6 years of like, hey, we're going to trade you. You're not starting on opening day. We're not going to commit to you. I know the fans, they don't like you. And, we've kind of left the conversation open for them to keep bashing you because we really never commit to you. He might say, hey, I want more money than what I want to get more money than what other teams are offering, right? Like, I want you to pay me the highest offer. I don't think they're going to get a hometown discount. And as you mentioned, you shouldn't blame Gleyber for that, right? Like, if Gleyber walks up to the Yankees and says, I got this amount of money from this team, and if you don't give me as much, if not more, I'm not going to sign with you. I'm going to take the most money on the market. That's the right move, right? Like, that's what a player should be doing, right? That's what the union's going to want the player to do. That's what's best for their future, right? So Gleyber's going to act in his best interest because the Yankees have acted in their best interest. That's how sports work. That's how business works. the Judge negotiations, those were ugly, right? Like those got pretty ugly. And guess what? Aaron Judge is smiling. He's playing right field and he's on the New York Yankees for the rest of his career. So if it gets ugly, if it gets a little, messy, that's fine. As long as the guy stays, money fixes a lot of things is all I'll say.
Money does fix a lot of things, but it's also, important to mention that, like, if he has a really good next season and the Yankees are stuck now having to really pay up, like really, take a big dump here in the checkbook department, we're going to be scratching our heads like, why didn't we do this earlier? Because you can't, sometimes, like, if you don't have anybody else, if there's nobody else to sign, if there's nobody else to replace that spot, like, you're screwed. You know what I mean? Like, he's one of our best offensive players right now. He's 26 years old, guys. Like, are we really trying to get older now? The only way I'd say, like, we should let him go is if we had a prospect ready to play at his offensive level and offer good defense. Like, if we had a prospect like that, which I don't think Oswald Peraza is that right now, I would be okay with it. But right now, it's ultimately a point where, like, you can't sacrifice some of our best bats that are in the middle of their prime and young. Like, that would be a bad move. So, moving on to the next topic, we're going to talk about Yamamoto. Is it worthwhile to spend on Yamamoto? We spent $162 million on Carlos Rodon. He barely pitched this year, 51 innings, something like that. He was awful. And for what it's worth, actually, over his last 5 starts, Ryan, I don't know if you know this, but that one start, if you kind of ignore that one start against Detroit where he gave up 7 earned runs, he's been pretty damn good. His last 4 out of his last 5 starts have been pretty solid. So I'll give him that credit where he's been mostly consistent at that one bad outing, but otherwise has been pretty strong. So I think that when it comes to Rodon, if he can stay healthy, I think he's going to be fine, but that's a big if. And that's ultimately why we're all like, damn, like, can we finally just go after someone that's not always injured or has a really bad history? Yamamoto is durable. He's pitched a lot of innings. He is 25 years old. He's young. He's 5 years younger than Rodon. He's like 5 or 6 years younger than Garrett Cole, maybe more. So, like, right now I'm thinking to myself, like, this is a good young arm who could really dominate in the MLB. He's got a really good pitch selection. I like him a lot. I think he'd be a great fit. The question is, how much is he going to cost? Because he's probably going to be like $180+ million. He's going to be one of the most expensive players that we see coming out of the international pool in a very long time, at least in the pitching department. So, Ryan, is it worth it to spend that big money on Yamamoto? Because in my opinion, I don't think the Yankees are going out and spending $200 million on Cody Bellinger and another $200 million on Yamamoto. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's one or the other. I think a lot of people are going to side with the offensive piece in Cody Bellinger over Yamamoto. But if you had to choose, who are you going with?
I'm going with Yamamoto. I think Yamamoto is the safer bet. I know that, it's going to be an argument of, well, the Yankees need Cody Bellinger more than they need Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Well, I mean, yeah, they would need if you ask me, would you rather have 2023 Cody Bellinger for the next 7 years or like a top 20 starter in baseball? I'd say the Cody Bellinger route because the Yankees really need the offense and maybe it can stitch together their rotation a little bit. But you're not, like, you're paying for what I'm thinking about what you're going to get, right? Like, and I don't think you're going to get a 140 WRC plus over the next 7 years. I don't think you're going to get that next year. Cody Bellinger's profile, historically speaking, does not result in a 140 WRC plus hitter. He doesn't hit the ball extremely hard. That's an issue. I know that hitting the ball hard isn't everything, and I wrote about that when I talked about maybe acquiring him at the deadline, right? Where I was like, hey, he doesn't hit the ball hard, but he does other things really well. But that was also with the assumption that I felt he was a 115 to 120 WRC plus hitter. I don't give $200 million to a 115 to 120 WRC plus hitter if that player, especially considering the risks that come with Bellinger, there are some injury concerns. Would you give $200 million to Gleyber Torres? No. Now, defense doesn't matter here, and Bellinger is a more valuable defender than Gleyber is, and a more valuable base runner. But we might see like $210 million, and rightfully so, right? Like, the guy should go out and try to get as much money as possible. But I do think another factor here is Yamamoto's younger. He's 25. You can kind of see the world where Garrett Cole's 35, 36 and passes that torch to Yamamoto as the ace of the New York Yankees. Do you really see the world where like Aaron Judge or someone's like, hey, Bellinger, you're now the best player on the team? Like, not really. And I think you can find a 115 to 120 WRC plus hitter with solid defense. I think that's easier to find at a lower price point than it is to find what Yamamoto can give you at a lower price point. Now, if you ask me, would I rather have, Yamamoto or a big splash in the hitting department for like a guy who's like a top 20 position player? That's a different conversation. I'd much rather have a top 20 position player for this team and for this roster than a top 20 starting pitcher. But Alex, you can never have enough pitching. I think this year told you that. We walked into this year thinking we're going to be one of the best rotations in baseball. I said I thought this was going to be the best rotation I've seen in my lifetime for the Yankees. And I mean, it's been probably one of the worst rotations of the Baby Bomber era, if not the worst, right? So, you can never have too much pitching. As you mentioned with the durability, a lot of the guys in the rotation are injury prone. This guy isn't injury prone. This guy pitches a lot. Now, that can obviously change. All it takes is one misthrown splitter or one misthrown curveball or one poorly thrown fastball. And suddenly your UCL is damaged, right? We saw it with Jason. It took one bad swing, one bad throw, whatever it was, right? You can't predict those things. So, there is a risk with signing any pitcher, but I'll take that risk over signing Cody Bellinger. I hope I'm right if the Yankees sign Yamamoto. I'm not like trying to trash Bellinger, but that's just how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. That's a good opinion. And my argument against Bellinger is this, guys. And look, if we ended up landing him, I'd be ecstatic as all of you guys, as anybody. But there is one factual thing to consider. This is his first good season in the last 3 years, right? He has 2 bad seasons and then this one. So can we, like, as Yankee fans, guys, like, take a second. We always want everybody, but as a Yankee fan, can you really sit here and say, like, going out and getting Bellinger, he's going to run it back? Whenever we make these decisions, it bites us in the ass. Whenever we go out and spend big money on players that have one good season, I mean, for goodness sake, Carlos Rodon had 2 good seasons and he still got injured and sucked. You know what I mean? Like, Bellinger, like, can we really, like, justify it? I feel like he's just, like, taking time bomb. They're going to trade for him like 7 years and we're just going to get destroyed because of the injuries or inconsistent. He's going to go back to whatever it was that he did last year, and which was terrible. So, you run the risk. You play the game. You have to deal with the consequences sometimes. I don't think the Yankees are going down that path. I think if they're going to go down that path, they're going to wait for Juan Soto to hit free agency and give him the money. They're going to give him that money and lock in a player who's 24, or I guess he'll be 25 or 26 at that time, who has been year and year, over and over again, the best player, one of the best offensive players in the game. You know what I mean? I think that they'd rather wait the extra season and make that move instead of go after Bellinger now, because I just feel like Bellinger's way more of a risk. And I know you probably agree with that, Ryan. He's a way more of a risk than Juan Soto. So, that's kind of the argument I would pose against Bellinger. However, he can play first base as well. When Anthony Rizzo's deal expires, he could transition over to first, which would be a really nice help because Rizzo, obviously, his contract expired. I think they have a mutual option 2025, but I don't know if they're going to pick that up. So, and are we really a Cody Bellinger away from a championship? Are we really $200 million away from a Cody Bellinger and a championship? No, guys, that's not true. We're not there yet. We don't really have a third baseman. We don't know if Stanton's ever going to hit the same again. We don't know if any of our guys are going to stay healthy. We don't know if Nestor can stay healthy or Rodon. And, we don't know what's going to happen in the rotation. I think that if you lock in a pitcher like Yamamoto for a good amount of time, you can build around a really strong rotation. You can build bats around that. You can wait for Soto, see if you could land him in free agency. But taking a huge bet on Bellinger, I think, could be a bad move. But again, we're kind of in desperation now, so I'm not exactly sure, where you go from. But that was the second question, was like Yamamoto versus Cody Bellinger. That was kind of the pressing question here. The third one, we kind of already hit on it. Do you invest your money in the big bats or do you invest the money in the rotation? Right now, I think you have to split it up and you have to be a little bit more cautious with how you're spending your money. We've spent aimlessly on players that, the general manager should know better. The trades that we've executed, we can react to the trades, but once the information comes out later that like Frankie Montas was already hurt, we didn't know that, but they did, or they should have. Like we didn't know Carlos Rodon was going to get hurt again. Like maybe there was some information there that we just didn't know because we're not in the room with them. But right now I think that the offense probably needs the most. I think the Yankees have a tremendous pitching coach in Matt Blake, and I think he gets a lot of value out of guys. If they stay healthy, if Nestor stays healthy, or Rodon stays healthy, we're in good shape. Like that's the reality. We're in fine shape. But the bats are bad. Like we just don't have enough talent there. So I'd say right now I'm focusing over the next 3 years, investing more in the offense than in pitching. But if we can make one big investment like Yamamoto into pitching, and the rest of our money goes towards offense, I think that would be a really good strategy. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the way I'd say it is the Yankees, and I don't want to come off too much as like a fan here. Like I am a fan, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to come off as I'm kind of like just just saying whatever I think comes to my head. But the Yankees need to make a big move. Like the Yankees need to make a plethora of moves, sure, but they need to make like a statement move. They are a statement move away every single year, right? Like I know they got Stanton in 2017, but they needed Garrett Cole. Like they needed an ace, and they didn't get him, right? And I know like Houston changed him to be something he may not have been in New York, but it's a failure in the first place if that's even a conversation. That like the Astros were so ahead of them in 2017 in terms of pitching development that if the Yankees got Garrett Cole, they wouldn't have gotten the outcomes the Astros did. That's all. That's a different issue though. The Yankees have patched that up. We know they have pretty good pitching development now. But you didn't get Garrett Cole, right? Like you let prospects stop you from getting Garrett Cole. That's a problem, right? 2018, you didn't get Harper or Machado. You used the stay in contract to say we can't afford them. I know that Cashman publicly said we had too many outfielders. I think it was a money thing. I think that was just some sort of way to kind of cover their butts. 2019, you got Cole. You got Cole and you did that. You did nothing else, right? Like you got Garrett Cole and then proceeded to do literally nothing else. I think they brought back like Brett Gardner and that's it, right? Like you didn't do anything else. Weird year. Everyone gets hurt. COVID, whatever. Enter 2021. Lindor was available. You didn't trade for him. You needed a shortstop too. You desperately needed a shortstop. You knew you needed one. And Francisco Lindor was available for pennies on the dollar, and you didn't trade for him because he quote unquote cost too much. You didn't want to give him money. That's a failure, right? Like that's a failure right there, right? I'm talking about moves that give you a World Series title. 2022 or 2021, after 2021, you have a bunch of shortstops available. Corey Seager was like the most perfect, just like you slide him over to third base when Volpe's ready, left-handed hitter. The dude he's having a ridiculous year, Alex. He's going to finish as the runner-up for the AL MVP, and he played like, 110, 120 games maybe by the end of the year. That's how many games he'll have, and he'll have like a 6-win year. He's that good. Yankees said no. We are the New York Yankees, and we're not going to be paying Corey Seager. Carlos Correa was available on essentially what was a 1-year deal, and you didn't sign him. What did you do? You brought in Josh Donaldson and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. I'm not having an offseason where you just kind of, you shrug your shoulders and you're like, we just paid Judge. We're not going to do anything big. If Juan Soto's available and you don't trade for him, like don't bother trying to sell yourselves as World Series champions. You're the New York Yankees, right? Like my standard is here. My standard is here because that's where the price tag is, right? Like, Alex, if you want to go to a Yankee game, it's one of the 2 or 3 most expensive sports experiences, not just in baseball, but across the country, right? So I expect you charge me like I'm watching the best baseball possible. I expect the best baseball possible. That's what your price tag is. They say it every offseason, World Series or bust. We want nothing short of a championship. If that's how you feel, then act like it. Right? I'm not going to criticize them for not getting Olsen. I know that it was either Anthony Volpe or no Olsen, and they weren't going to trade Anthony Volpe. I understand that. Harper's money, right? Soto's on a 1-year deal, right? Like Yamamoto's out there. You have money, you have prospects. Make something happen, right? Like I'm not going into next year with Giancarlo Stanton hitting 4 as my DH. I'm sorry, that's not happening, right? Like if you want to tell me you're serious, that's not happening. Because is he a World Series caliber DH as of right now? Because as of September 14th, 2023, the answer is no. Is DJ LeMahieu a starting third baseman on a World Series caliber team? As of September 14th, 2023, I'd say no. Is your rotation good enough? No. And you put a lot of money into that. Your bullpen, I think, is fine. But you can't waste another year of Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole might win the Cy Young. Aaron Judge won the MVP last year. If I told you that Aaron Judge was going to win an MVP and Garrett Cole was going to win a Cy Young after 2019, you would tell me the Yankees would have a World Series. Instead, we're battling for last place. I mean, we're talking about, the Yankees might not finish last. Are we serious? Like, are we really going to celebrate not finishing behind the Red Sox and missing the playoffs? Like, that's a joke to me. It's a joke. So actions have to meet words. If I hear we want nothing short of a World Series championship, then act like it, right? Judge and Torres are the only 2 veterans in that lineup that get guaranteed starting spots next year, if you're serious. Jason Dominguez, we know he's undergoing Tommy John. The timetable is 9 to 10 months. That's a June or July return. If he's medically cleared to hit at any level in April, and you can get him back in that lineup in May, but the only stipulation is he can only DH, Stan's got to either play better, or he's got to go to right field, or he's got to figure something out. Like, I'm sorry, I don't view these guys as hurdles anymore. You can't sign. You can't sign Jock Peterson? What about the DH spot? Well, my DH had a sub 100 WRC plus. He doesn't get to tell me he's not blocking me from signing a DH, right? My third baseman. Oh, we have DJ there. He has a 98 WRC plus. That doesn't block me from signing a third baseman, right? That's how I view it, Alex. I don't know if that's a little too harsh, but you got to play better. Rizzo too. Like, I know he's coming off a concussion. Yo, if a first base option becomes available that like is a little bit unique or whatever, and he's a left-handed bat and he can hit really well, yo, Rizzo is not a roadblock. Rizzo, you play your way back into starting. You play your way into me viewing you as a roadblock. Aaron Judge is a roadblock. You don't get a right fielder because you have Aaron Judge out there, right? You don't get a second baseman because Torres is there. You don't want to throw another $300 million contract maybe because you already are paying a lot of money to Garrett Cole. And Garrett Cole's worth the money. He's box office. He shows up and he gets the job done. DH, third base, first base, a bunch of positions on the field. You got to fight for it, right? Like, I don't view anybody on this team outside of Judge, Torres, Cole, those types. Volpe, of course, he's a rookie, and, you expect him to be better next year. I don't view a lot of these guys on this team as roadblocks for getting better. I don't care that Juan Soto is a bad defender in left field. DH him for some games. Don't care. I don't care that Jason Dominguez, if he has to come back sooner, has to be a DH. DH him. I don't care. I don't care. I think that's the point where I'm at, Alex. This team let a lot of people down this year. Look at the tape. Look at all our old podcasts coming into the year. It was World Series expectations. I am not walking back those expectations. You failed this year. It's got to get better. It has to get better, Alex. It absolutely has to. And they have to make a big move or a flurry of moves because anything resembling the 2023 Yankees cannot be what the 2024 Yankees are entering next year.
Yeah, I think the main kind of point you made there is that they have to back up what they say. Every year we're gonna compete for a championship, compete for the World Series, and they sometimes don't make the necessary moves to actually accomplish that goal. So if they're gonna put their money where their mouths are, they gotta step up this upcoming offseason, next two off seasons, and make some moves that tell the league that we're the Yankees. Like we're coming back, man. Like we're not gonna get kicked while we're down. We're gonna kick back, and I think that's where I'm at in terms of what management should do is just fight. They have the money. They have the resources to get out of this pretty quickly. They need to do it. And they need to make the right decisions because they can't afford to make any more bad decisions. Whatever the process has been the last couple of years making these choices needs to be done away with completely. If it's analytical, if it's, Cashman strategy, I don't know what it is, but whatever they've been doing needs to be a thing of the past. The entire new strategy has to be put in place now, this upcoming offseason, before free agency starts, because that's ultimately what is going to decide the future of this team, my friends. But always happy to hear perspectives below in the YouTube comment section. Make sure to like and subscribe as always, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.